What child is this who lay to rest on Mary's lap is sleeping, whom angels greet with anthems sweet, while shepherds watch are keeping?
Welcome to the fourth day of CraftLit. Today you will have Playing for Your Pleasure, The Christmas Stocking from 1905, The Shepherd Who Didn't Go from 1916, A Kidnapped Santa Claus from 1904, and What Child Is This? Followed by the CBS Radio Theater of A Very Private Miracle and A Christmas Scene at Camelot. If you haven't listened to the day one, the first day of CraftLit, you may want to go do that. All of the information on how and where to find other episodes will be in that opening. However, the short version is, if you're watching/listening on YouTube, you can get the playlist on our YouTube channel. And if you are looking at show notes and listening to this as an actual audio podcast, if you look in the show notes, you will see not only links to all the previous episodes, but time codes telling you where to fast wind to or rewind to be able to listen to exactly the right story that you want to listen to. Get your tinsel out, get ready. Here we go.
The Christmas Stocking by L. Frank Baum. An ancient Italian legend tells how good St. Nicholas of Padua first gave presents on Christmas Eve by throwing purses in at the open windows of needy people. Purses in those days were knitted of yarn and tied with strings at the open ends. They were not unlike stockings, except that they had no feet. People began to hang these long, empty purses of yarn on their windowsills on Christmas Eve, so that St. Nicholas, as he passed by, could put money into them. When money became scarce, the long purses were filled with presents instead, useful things for the big people, and books and toys for the children. In cold countries where windows could not be left opened, folks hung their purses near the fireplace, believing that St. Nicholas would come down the chimney and leave his presents for them. And after the knitted purses went out of fashion, they hung up their stockings, which closely resembled the old-time purses, so that there would be plenty of room for the Christmas presents, and old St. Nicholas, or Santa Claus, who lived on through the ages, would know that he had been expected. That is how the Christmas stocking came to be used, and why it will be used for many generations to come in thousands of homes on each succeeding Christmas Eve. It is a pretty custom, expressing the confidence and trust we feel in that sweet charity which bestows loving remembrances upon the rich and poor, the mighty and the lowly, on each succeeding birthday of our Lord Jesus Christ. For it is most fitting that he, who taught the word charity, should be honored upon his birthnight by a humble imitation of the kindly and generous creed he gave us, peace on earth, goodwill to all, leads us to recognize the truth of the noble text, it is better to give than to receive. And so, as it teaches us kindliness, goodwill, and charity, may the Christmas stocking endure forever.
Fireside Christmas Short Stories, The Shepherd Who Didn't Go, by J.T. Stocking. You have all heard of the shepherds who went to Bethlehem, but I do not believe any of you have heard of the shepherd who didn't go. The Bible does not say anything about him, but his story has come to me and I am going to tell it to you. The city of Bethlehem stood on a hill. Below the town, with its steep, narrow streets and white walls, were gray olive orchards. Below the orchards were gardens bright with flowers. Below the gardens lay green meadows, and beyond these pasture lands that stretched away to the wilderness plains, where little patches of grass grew among the bushes and between the great rocks. There were caves among these rocks where wolves used to skulk and sometimes robbers hid. So the shepherds who guarded their flocks in these wild pastures dared not leave them alone. One clear, beautiful night many centuries ago, 4 shepherds were watching their flocks on these pastures. Samuel, Ezra, Joel, and David were their names. Samuel, Ezra, and Joel were strong men, no longer young, with shaggy eyebrows and brown beards. Ezra's was short, Joel's long, and Samuel's streaked with gray. They owned the flocks which they tended. David was a boy with ruddy cheeks, bright eyes, and strong, lithe limbs. He cared for the flocks of old Abraham. Abraham was old and rich and did not work any more, but hired David, whose family was very poor, to care for his sheep. The flocks of the 4 shepherds were lying quiet on the plains far below the city, and nearby Samuel, Ezra, Joel, and David lay wrapped in their shepherd's cloaks. "Samuel," said David, rising upon his elbow. "What is it, David?" asked the other in a deep voice. "Are you not glad that you tend sheep in Bethlehem instead of some distant place?" "Why, David?" asked Samuel sleepily. "Because it is in Bethlehem that the king we have been looking for so long is to be born. I have been reading it in the prophets only today." "Have you only just heard of that?" asked Ezra sourly. "No," replied the boy hotly. "I have heard my mother tell of it ever since I can remember, and I have read it over and over again. Samuel." "Yes, David." "Do you think we shall ever see the promised king?" "I do not know, my boy," the older man answered sadly. "We have waited long, and there seems little hope for Israel now. But he will come some day. He will come some day. Why do you ask, David?" "I cannot tell. It is often in my mind. Something makes me think of it tonight. Perhaps it is because I've read of him today. Samuel, I would walk to the end of the earth to see the Christ child." "Well, you need not start now," grumbled Ezra, and Joel added roughly, "Go to sleep, boy, the hour is late." It was much later before David fell asleep, for his head was full of dreams and the stories of wonderful days to come that his mother had told him. But at length he joined the rest in healthy slumber. Suddenly it seemed to each of them that something had passed over him and touched him lightly on the cheek. The older men raised themselves on their elbows, but David sprang to his feet. At first they saw only a great light which nearly blinded them. Then they discerned a shining form in the sky and heard a voice say, "Be not afraid, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all the people. For there is born to you this day in the city of David a Saviour, who is Christ the Lord. And this is the sign unto you. Ye shall find a babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, and lying in a manger." And then all the sky was full of light, and the air was full of heavenly voices singing, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men." While the shepherds listened, half joyful, half afraid, the light faded, and the voices floated away, "Goodwill to men, to men, to men." And all was still as before. For a moment the shepherds looked at each other in silent awe and wonder. Then Ezra spoke in a voice dry with fear. "What was it?" David stood speechless, and Samuel answered reverently, "Angels." "Brothers," he continued, "a wonderful thing has happened to us. It has been a long, long day since angels have spoken to men." Then he girded his shepherd's cloak about him and seized his staff. "Come, Ezra, Joel, David, let us be going." "Going where?" asked Ezra and Joel. "Why, to Bethlehem, to see the child. Did not the angel tell us the sign? Let us go at once to find the babe, wrapped in swaddling clothes and lying in a manger." "There be many mangers in Bethlehem," objected Ezra. "I know not how we shall find him," said Joel. "It is a vain search, I fear," and he drew his cloak about him and reached for his staff. "But I will go with you if you say." So they started, Samuel, Ezra, and Joel, but David stood still. "Come, David, make haste," called Samuel, but the boy did not move. "I cannot go," he said. "Cannot go?" cried Samuel in amazement, and Ezra added, "Who said but a little while ago that he would go to the end of the earth to see the king?" "And so I would," cried David, "but the sheep, we cannot leave the sheep alone." "The sheep will be safe enough," said Samuel. "The dogs will keep them together. There are no wolves tonight. Come, David." But the boy was firm. "There is my master. He'll be angry if I leave his flocks alone." "Old Abraham will never know," said Joel. "Abraham is a hard master," said David. "Many a time I have felt his heavy staff on my back, but it is not that which keeps me. I have given my word that, come day, come night, come life, come death, I will not fail to keep the flocks. Go on without me. I must keep my word. Go on." So they went on, impatient and eager for this wondrous quest, Ezra and Joel muttering now and then at the obstinacy of the boy, but Samuel full of glowing admiration. David watched them as they moved up the hill. That dream of finding the Christ child, how could he give it up? Once he started forward. "I will go." But something held him back, and he threw himself upon the ground and kept back tears of bitter disappointment. After a time he grew calmer, and found a certain comfort in thinking of the helplessness of his flock. Suddenly the low growling of his dog brought him to his feet, but he saw nothing, heard nothing, and bade the dog be still. In a moment, with a bark of alarm, the dog was up again and away. David sprang up, certain now that danger was near. There was panic in the flock. Toward the wilderness he could see lean, gray forms moving stealthily and swiftly among the sheep. Wolves! Springing upon a rock and waving his cloak in circles about his head, he uttered the familiar call which gathered the sheep about him, his own sheep nearest, and behind them the flocks of Samuel, Ezra, and Joel. The wolves made off, and David quickly looked over his flock to see if all were there, for the Eastern shepherd knows his sheep by name. One by one he named them, with an increasing feeling of relief. They were all there. No, one was missing. Kebarbara, the pet of the flock. Kebarbara means striped, and the little sheep was so called because of the dark marking of her fleece. After waving his staff over the huddled beasts, and uttering a few times the soothing cry, "Hoo-da! Hoo-da!" he rushed off in the direction which the wolves had taken. At the top of the steep bank, at the edge of the pasture, he stopped and called, "Kebarbara! Kebarbara!" and for an answer heard an anguished bleat from the rocks below. It was a steep and slippery way, but David plunged down with no thought of anything but the sheep. Loose stones gave way, and he lost his footing. At the bottom he picked himself up unhurt, and there beside him were two wolves quarreling over the wounded sheep. One of them slunk away at sight of the boy, but the other had a taste of blood and sprang at David, missing his throat but sinking his teeth into his leg. Then David, as the beast turned to spring again, struck him a heavy blow on the head with his staff and killed him. His own wounds were bleeding and painful, but he turned at once with caressing words to the sheep. "Kebarbara, they have hurt you, little sheep, but they have not killed you. I reached you just in time. You cannot walk, can you? And I am afraid I cannot carry you. But I can help. There, put your head on my arm." He groaned with pain. "No, the other one." So he talked to her as to a child, as the wounded boy and the wounded sheep slowly made their way up the steep hillside and over the rough rocks. It was not a long way, and half an hour before the sturdy shepherd lad would have bounded over it quickly enough. But now the wounded leg was slow, the wounded arm was weak, and the wounded lamb seemed very heavy. It was a weary journey, with many stops. When at last they reached the flock, still huddled trembling together, David had only strength to give one reassuring, "Hoo-ta!" then fell exhausted. How long he lay there he did not know, but the dawn was growing bright when 3 men appeared from the direction of the town. It was not the shepherds, but old Abraham and 2 of his servants. As the old man caught sight of his flock, but he saw no shepherd, he raged with anger. "David!" he shouted fiercely. "David!" There was no answer. "The young vagabond, he has left the sheep. Of great worth are his promises. He would keep my flock, come life, come death. David! Let me once find him, and I will give him something he will remember longer than he does his vows." As he drew near the flock, he discovered the boy lying on the ground. "Ah, asleep is he, and the sun this high? Come, get up!" he shouted fiercely and lifted his staff to strike. But as he did so, he caught sight of the white face and the bleeding arm and noticed the wounded sheep. Old Abraham dropped his angry arm, and there was a touch of tenderness that was strange to him as he continued, "Ah, David, boy, you did not forget your promises, did you, David? And I would have struck you. Forgive me, my lad." Then turning to his servants, he gave them command. "Take him to the inn, and bid them care for him. I myself will keep the flock today." The servants bowed low. "The inn is full, my lord." Old Abraham commanded again positively. "Take him to the inn, I say." "But the inn is full, my lord," replied the older servant, trembling. Then the other servant spoke. "There is perhaps room in the stable, my lord." "Then bear him thither, and bid them give him the best of care. Go at once." So the servants bore David away, still unconscious from his wounds, and made him comfortable on a bed of straw in the stable of the inn. It was some hours before he came to himself. When at last he opened his eyes and his ears began to catch once more the sounds about him, the first thing he heard was a faint cry. "What is that?" he asked eagerly of Samuel, who was watching beside him. "That," said the old shepherd in tones of mingled joy and reverence, "is the child the angels told us about, the child we came to see. We found him here in the stable, in a manger." "And am I not to see him?" "Yes, you are," said Samuel, and a grave-faced man brought the child and laid him in David's arms, the child for whose coming the people had been longing for 1,000 years. The color at length came back to David's white cheeks, and strength and health to his limbs, and he went back again to the plain. Old Abraham embraced him. "Forgive me, my son. I have been a hard master. Thou hast been very faithful, and for thy reward I make thee lord over all my flocks, and half of them shall be thine own." So David became a man of flocks, and all his days he was known among the other shepherds as the one who had held the Christ child in his arms. And there was none among them who was thought so brave and gentle and wise as the shepherd who didn't go. End of The Shepherd Who Didn't Go by J.T. Stocking. Recording by Angela.
A Kidnapped Santa Claus by L. Frank Baum. Santa Claus lives in the Laughing Valley, where stands the big rambling castle in which his toys are manufactured. His workmen, selected from the Ryls, Knooks, Pixies, and Fairies, live with him, and everyone is as busy as can be from one year's end to another. It is called the Laughing Valley because everything there is happy and gay. The brook chuckles to itself as it leaps frolicking between its green banks. The wind whistles merrily in the trees, the sunbeams dance lightly over the soft grass, and the violets and wildflowers look smilingly up from their green nests. To laugh one needs to be happy one needs to be content, and throughout the Laughing Valley of Santa Claus, contentment reigns supreme. On one side is the mighty forest of Burzee. At the other side stands the huge mountain that contains the caves of the demons, and between them the valley lies smiling and peaceful. One would think that our good old Santa Claus, who devotes his days to making children happy, would have no enemies on all the earth, and, as a matter of fact, for a long period of time he encountered nothing but love wherever he might go. But the demons who live in the mountain caves grew to hate Santa Claus very much, and all for the simple reason that he made children happy. The caves of the demons are 5 in number. A broad pathway leads up to the first cave, which is a finely arched cavern at the foot of the mountain, the entrance being beautifully carved and decorated. In it resides the demon of selfishness. Back of this is another cavern inhabited by the demon of envy. The cave of the demon of hatred is next in order, and through this one passes to the home of the demon of malice, situated in a dark and fearful cave in the very heart of the mountain. I do not know what lies beyond this. Some say there are terrible pitfalls leading to death and destruction, and this may well be true. However, from each one of the 4 caves mentioned, there is a small, narrow tunnel leading to the 5th cave, a cozy little room occupied by the demon of repentance. And as the rocky floors of these passages are well worn by the track of passing feet, I judge that many wanderers in the caves of the demons have escaped through the tunnels to the abode of the demon of repentance, who is said to be a pleasant sort of fellow, who gladly opens for one a little door, admitting you into fresh air and sunshine again. Well, these demons of the caves, thinking they had great cause to dislike old Santa Claus, held a meeting one day to discuss the matter. "I'm really getting lonesome," said the demon of selfishness, "for Santa Claus distributes so many pretty Christmas gifts to all the children that they become happy and generous through his example and keep away from my cave." "I'm having the same trouble," rejoined the demon of envy. "The little ones seem quite content with Santa Claus, and there are few indeed that I can coax to become envious." "And that makes it bad for me," declared the demon of hatred, "for if no children pass through the caves of selfishness and envy, none can get to my cavern." "Or to mine," added the demon of malice. "For my part," said the demon of repentance, "it is easily seen that if children do not visit your caves, they have no need to visit mine, so that I am quite as neglected as you are." "And all because of this person they call Santa Claus!" exclaimed the demon of envy. "He is simply ruining our business, and something must be done at once." To this they readily agreed, but what to do was another and more difficult matter to settle. They knew that Santa Claus worked all through the year at his castle in the Laughing Valley, preparing the gifts he was to distribute on Christmas Eve, and at first they resolved to try to tempt him into their caves, that they might lead him on to the terrible pitfalls that ended in destruction. So the very next day, while Santa Claus was busily at work surrounded by his little band of assistants, the demon of selfishness came to him and said, "These toys are wonderfully bright and pretty. Why do you not keep them for yourself? It's a pity to give them to those noisy boys and fretful girls, who break and destroy them so quickly." "Nonsense!" cried the old graybeard, his bright eyes twinkling merrily as he turned toward the tempting demon. "The boys and girls are never so noisy and fretful after receiving my presents, and if I can make them happy for one day in the year, I am quite content." So the demon went back to the others, who awaited him in their caves, and said, "I have failed, for Santa Claus is not at all selfish." The following day the demon of envy visited Santa Claus. Said he, "The toy shops are full of playthings quite as pretty as those you are making. What a shame it is that they should interfere with your business! They make toys by machinery much quicker than you can make them by hand, and they sell them for money, while you get nothing at all for your work." But Santa Claus refused to be envious of the toy shops. "I can supply the little ones but once a year, on Christmas Eve," he answered, "for the children are many and I am but one. And as my work is one of love and kindness, I would be ashamed to receive money for my little gifts. But throughout all the year the children must be amused in some way, and so the toy shops are able to bring much happiness to my little friends. I like the toy shops, and am glad to see them prosper." In spite of the second rebuff, the Demon of Hatred thought he would try to influence Santa Claus. So the next day he entered the busy workshop and said, "Good morning, Santa. I have bad news for you." "Then run away like a good fellow," answered Santa Claus. "Bad news is something that should be kept secret and never told." "You cannot escape this, however," declared the Demon, "for in the world are a good many who do not believe in Santa Claus, and these you are bound to hate bitterly, since they have so wronged you." "Stuff and rubbish!" cried Santa. "And there are others who resent your making children happy, and who sneer at you and call you a foolish old rattle-pate. You are quite right to hate such base slanderers, and you ought to be revenged upon them for their evil words." "But I don't hate 'em!" exclaimed Santa Claus positively. "Such people do me no real harm, but merely render themselves and their children unhappy. Poor things! I'd much rather help them any day than injure them." Indeed, the demons could not tempt old Santa Claus in any way. On the contrary, he was shrewd enough to see that their object in visiting him was to make mischief and trouble, and his cheery laughter disconcerted the evil ones and showed to them the folly of such an undertaking, so they abandoned honeyed words and determined to use force. It was well known that no harm can come to Santa Claus while he is in the Laughing Valley, for the fairies and Ryls and Knooks all protect him. But on Christmas Eve he drives his reindeer out into the big world, carrying a sleigh-load of toys and pretty gifts to the children, and this was the time and the occasion when his enemies had the best chance to injure him. So the demons laid their plans and awaited the arrival of Christmas Eve. The moon shone big and white in the sky, and the snow lay crisp and sparkling on the ground as Santa Claus cracked his whip and sped away out of the valley into the great world beyond. The roomy sleigh was packed full with huge sacks of toys, and as the reindeer dashed onward, our jolly old Santa laughed and whistled and sang for very joy. For in all his merry life this was the one day in the year when he was happiest, the day he lovingly bestowed the treasures of his workshop upon the little children. It would be a busy night for him, he well knew. As he whistled and shouted and cracked his whip again, he reviewed in mind all the towns and cities and farmhouses where he was expected, and figured that he had just enough presents to go around and make every child happy. The reindeer knew exactly what was expected of them, and dashed along so swiftly that their feet scarcely seemed to touch the snow-covered ground. Suddenly a strange thing happened. A rope shot through the moonlight, and a big noose that was in the end of it settled over the arms and body of Santa Claus and drew tight. Before he could resist or even cry out, he was jerked from the seat of the sleigh and tumbled head foremost into a snowbank, while the reindeer rushed onward with the load of toys and carried it quickly out of sight and sound. Such a surprising experience confused old Santa for a moment, and when he had collected his senses, he found that the wicked demons had pulled him from the snowdrift and bound him tightly with many coils of the stout rope, and then they carried the kidnapped Santa Claus away to their mountain, where they thrust the prisoner into a secret cave and chained him to the rocky wall so that he could not escape. "Ha ha!" laughed the demons, rubbing their hands together with cruel glee. "What will the children do now? How they will cry and scold and storm when they find there are no toys in their stockings and no gifts on their Christmas trees! And what a lot of punishment they will receive from their parents! And how they will flock to our caves of selfishness and envy and hatred and malice! We have done a mighty clever thing, we demons of the caves." Now it so chanced that on this Christmas Eve the good Santa Claus had taken with him in his sleigh Nutter the Ryl, Peter the Knook, Kilter the Pixie, and a small fairy named Whisk, his 4 favorite assistants. These little people he had often found very useful in helping him to distribute his gifts to the children, and when their master was so suddenly dragged from the sleigh, they were all snugly tucked underneath the seat, where the sharp wind could not reach them. The tiny immortals knew nothing of the capture of Santa Claus until some time after he had disappeared, but finally they missed his cheery voice, and as their master always sang or whistled on his journeys, the silence warned them that something was wrong. Little Whisk stuck out his head from underneath the seat and found Santa Claus gone and no one to direct the flight of the reindeer. "Whoa!" he called out, and the deer obediently slackened speed and came to a halt. Peter and Nutter and Kilter all jumped upon the seat and looked back over the track made by the sleigh, but Santa Claus had been left miles and miles behind. "What shall we do?" asked Whisk anxiously, all the mirth and mischief banished from his wee face by this great calamity. "We must go back at once and find our master," said Nutter the Ryl, who thought and spoke with much deliberation. "No, no!" exclaimed Peter the Knook, who, cross and crabbed though he was, might always be depended upon in an emergency. "If we delay or go back, there will not be time to get the toys to the children before morning, and that would grieve Santa Claus more than anything else." "It is certain that some wicked creatures have captured him," added Kilter thoughtfully, "and their object must be to make the children unhappy. So our first duty is to get the toys distributed as carefully as if Santa Claus were himself present. Afterward we can search for our master and easily secure his freedom." This seemed such good and sensible advice that the others at once resolved to adopt it. So Peter the Knook called to the reindeer, and the faithful animals again sprang forward and dashed over hill and valley, through forest and plain, until they came to the houses wherein children lay sleeping and dreaming of the pretty gifts they would find on Christmas morning. The little immortals had set themselves a difficult task, for although they had assisted Santa Claus on many of his journeys, their master had always directed and guided them, and told them exactly what he wished them to do. But now they had to distribute the toys according to their own judgment, and they did not understand children as well as did old Santa, so it is no wonder they made some laughable errors. Mamie Brown, who wanted a doll, got a drum instead, and a drum is of no use to a girl who loves dolls. And Charlie Smith, who delights to romp and play out of doors, and who wanted some new rubber boots to keep his feet dry, received a sewing box filled with colored worsteds and threads and needles, which made him so provoked that he thoughtlessly called our dear Santa Claus a fraud. Had there been many such mistakes, the demons would have accomplished their evil purpose and made the children unhappy. But the little friends of the absent Santa Claus labored faithfully and intelligently to carry out their master's ideas, and they made fewer errors than might be expected under such unusual circumstances. And although they worked as swiftly as possible, day had begun to break before the toys and other presents were all distributed. So for the first time in many years, the reindeer trotted into the Laughing Valley on their return in broad daylight, with the brilliant sun peeping over the edge of the forest to prove they were far behind their accustomed hours. Having put the deer in the stable, the little folk began to wonder how they might rescue their master, and they realized they must discover, first of all, what had happened to him and where he was. So Whisk the Fairy transported himself to the bower of the Fairy Queen, which was located deep in the heart of the Forest of Burzee, and once there, it did not take him long to find out all about the naughty demons and how they had kidnapped the good Santa Claus to prevent his making children happy. The Fairy Queen also promised her assistance, and then, fortified by this powerful support, Whisk flew back to where Nutter and Peter and Kilter awaited him, and the 4 counseled together and laid plans to rescue their master from his enemies. It is possible that Santa Claus was not as merry as usual during the night that succeeded his capture, for although he had faith in the judgment of his little friends, he could not avoid a certain amount of worry, and an anxious look would creep at times into his kind old eyes as he thought of the disappointment that might await his dear little children. And the demons who guarded him by turns, one after another, did not neglect to taunt him with contemptuous words in his helpless condition. When Christmas Day dawned, the Demon of Malice was guarding the prisoner, and his tongue was sharper than any of the others. "The children are waking up, Santa," he cried. "They are waking up to find their stockings empty. Ho, ho! How they will quarrel and wail and stamp their feet in anger! Our caves will be full today, old Santa. Our caves are sure to be full." But to this, as to other like taunts, Santa Claus answered nothing. He was much grieved by his capture, it is true, but his courage did not forsake him, and finding that the prisoner would not reply to his jeers, the Demon of Malice presently went away and sent the Demon of Repentance to take his place. This last personage was not so disagreeable as the others. He had gentle and refined features, and his voice was soft and pleasant in tone. "My brother demons do not trust me overmuch," said he as he entered the cavern, "but it is morning now, and the mischief is done. You cannot visit the children again for another year." "That is true," answered Santa Claus almost cheerfully. "Christmas Eve is past, and for the first time in centuries I have not visited my children." "The little ones will be greatly disappointed," murmured the Demon of Repentance almost regretfully, "but that cannot be helped now. Their grief is likely to make the children selfish and envious and hateful, and if they come to the Cave of the Demons today, I shall get a chance to lead some of them to my Cave of Repentance." "Do you never repent yourself?" asked Santa Claus curiously. "Oh, yes, indeed," answered the Demon. "I am even now repenting that I assisted in your capture. Of course, it is too late to remedy the evil that has been done, but repentance, you know, can only come after an evil thought or deed, for in the beginning there is nothing to repent of." "So I understand," said Santa Claus. "Those who avoid evil need never visit your cave." "As a rule, that is true," replied the Demon. "Yet you, who have done no evil, are about to visit my cave at once, for to prove that I sincerely regret my share in your capture, I am going to permit you to escape." This speech greatly surprised the prisoner, until he reflected that it was just what might be expected of the Demon of Repentance. The fellow at once busied himself untying the knots that bound Santa Claus and unlocking the chains that fastened him to the wall. Then he led the way through a long tunnel until they both emerged in the Cave of Repentance. "I hope you will forgive me," said the Demon pleadingly. "I am not really a bad person, you know, and I believe I accomplish a great deal of good in the world." With this he opened a back door that let in a flood of sunshine, and Santa Claus sniffed the fresh air gratefully. "I bear no malice," said he to the Demon in a gentle voice, "and I am sure the world would be a dreary place without you. So good morning, and a Merry Christmas to you." With these words he stepped out to greet the bright morning, and a moment later he was trudging along, whistling softly to himself, on his way to his home in the Laughing Valley. Marching over the snow toward the mountain was a vast army, made of the most curious creatures imaginable. There were numberless knooks from the forest, as rough and crooked in appearance as the gnarled branches of the trees they ministered to, and there were dainty rills from the fields, each one bearing the emblem of the flower or plant it guarded. Behind these were many ranks of pixies, gnomes, and nymphs, and in the rear 1,000 beautiful fairies floated along in gorgeous array. This wonderful army was led by Whisk, Peter, Nutter, and Kilter, who had assembled it to rescue Santa Claus from captivity and to punish the demons who had dared to take him away from his beloved children. And although they looked so bright and peaceful, the little immortals were armed with powers that would be very terrible to those who had incurred their anger. Woe to the demons of the caves if this mighty army of vengeance ever met them. But lo, coming to meet his loyal friends appeared the imposing form of Santa Claus, his white beard floating in the breeze and his bright eyes sparkling with pleasure at this proof of the love and veneration he had inspired in the hearts of the most powerful creatures in existence. And while they clustered around him and danced with glee at his safe return, he gave them earnest thanks for their support. But Whisk and Nutter and Peter and Kilter he embraced affectionately. "It is useless to pursue the demons," said Santa Claus to the army. "They have their place in the world and can never be destroyed. But that is a great pity, nevertheless," he continued musingly. So the fairies and knooks and pixies and ryls all escorted the good man to his castle, and there left him to talk over the events of the night with his little assistants. Whisk had already rendered himself invisible and flown through the big world to see how the children were getting along on this bright Christmas morning, and by the time he returned, Peter had finished telling Santa Claus of how they had distributed the toys. "We really did very well," cried the fairy in a pleased voice, "for I found little unhappiness among the children this morning. Still, you must not get captured again, my dear master, for we might not be so fortunate another time in carrying out your ideas." He then related the mistakes that had been made, and which he had not discovered until his tour of inspection. And Santa Claus at once sent him with rubber boots for Charlie Smith and a doll for Mamie Brown, so that even those two disappointed ones became happy. As for the wicked demons of the caves, they were filled with anger and chagrin when they found that their clever capture of Santa Claus had come to naught. Indeed, no one on that Christmas day appeared to be at all selfish or envious or hateful. And realizing that while the children's saint had so many powerful friends it was folly to oppose him, the demons never again attempted to interfere with his journeys on Christmas Eve.
If you enjoy CraftLit and you want to extend the magic of Christmas all year long, we gotcha. Our CraftLit membership gives you access to all of our premium annotated books for an entire year. This membership also comes with access to our book parties, watch parties, and our cozy Discord community. Visit craftlit.gumroad.com to give someone a premium membership or buy the subscription for yourself at craftlit.com/premium.
Welcome. Doubly welcome this special eve, of course. If you look in Webster's dictionary under the word miracle, you can read the definition, an event or effect contrary to the established order of things. A wonder or a wonderful thing. This is the story of a miracle that took place at Christmas time. The very best of all possible times for miracles. And it begins with an ad which has appeared for 10 years in the Dawson City Times and the Thomasville Courier.
We'll begin the advertisement with, if the owner of the Santa Claus suit rented to Jennifer Swallow will present his copy of the receipt to me, Jasper Crown, he will be
Oh, you'd have to include your address and your phone number, etc.
Of course, Jenny, we'll include that. He will be remunerated to whatever degree he asks, up to $1 million. Does that seem fair?
Oh, it isn't fair. It's silly. The rental was less than $1. Why should it be worth any more than that?
Maybe you'll never know, but I will. And everyone else who hears this story will know.
Our mystery drama, A Very Private Miracle, was written especially for the Mystery Theater by Ian Martin and stars Howard Da Silva. It is sponsored in part by Buick Motor Division and Anheuser-Busch Incorporated, brewers of Budweiser. This is a story of a very special time and a very special love affair between a bright and artless 10-year-old and a bitter, soured man who made himself old before his time. But however it ends, it begins with hate.
What was that, Arthur?
A rock through the window. That's an ugly mob outside.
Yeah, no goods, inadequates, ingrates.
Because you've taken their livelihood away from them.
My livelihood as well. I can't go on losing money with the mill. Since Robert walked out on me, I don't need any more.
But Thomasville does. Good Lord, it's the only real industry we have left to keep the town alive.
Are you my lawyer or theirs?
You know whose lawyer I am.
My friend or theirs?
That's a question which gets more and more difficult to answer. Jasper, it's Christmas. And Robert had good ideas for the mill.
I don't want to hear any more about the mill or about Robert, my son, or my daughter. Most of all, I don't want to hear about Christmas. That cheap, tawdry, pagan celebration. There, at last. The riot squad. They'll break up that no-good rabble. That's my Christmas present to them. Finally, the police have dispersed them. Cowards all. A mob has no courage.
Well, what are you going to do about the window?
Close the room off. Heaven knows there are enough other rooms for me to wander through alone since I've been deserted by my family.
Well, that's scarcely fair to Emily.
Emily? Did I once really have a wife? Was there some warmth in this house?
While my sister lived.
Well, she's dead. Too many years ago for me to want to count. There's no one left but my housekeeper and me. At least Mrs. Murchison hasn't deserted me, as you want to. Go then, Arthur, go. It's safe now. The papers are all signed.
I won't execute these till after the holiday.
The day after Christmas.
The day after Christmas is Sunday, so I can't do anything till Monday.
Very well, but the execution is signed, sealed, and delivered. When I sell the mill, I'll be not a millionaire, but a multi-millionaire. Or do you mean that crowd of hicks the police just chased away? You think I'm frightened of them?
Oh, I didn't mean physically, and I didn't mean concerned either. I mean terrified for your immortal soul. Oh, don't trouble. I'll let myself out. Oh, Mrs. Murchison, if I don't see you again before the great day, Merry Christmas.
And a Merry Christmas to you, Mr. Daly.
Who was on the phone, Mrs. Murchison?
Oh, such good news for you, sir. It's little Mary herself.
What did she want?
Sure, she's still on the phone waiting to tell you herself.
I have no wish to talk to my daughter.
Ah, but when you hear her news...
What news?
She wanted to tell you herself.
If she's leaving that damn foreigner and coming home alone, I'll talk to her. Otherwise, go and hang up.
Without listening to what she has to say?
There's only one thing I want to hear from her. An apology.
Oh, you're not going to talk to Miss Mary?
No.
I wanted to save the news for her to give you. Oh, but now sure I have to say it myself. It's a baby she's going to have. She wanted you to know you're going to be a grandfather.
Oh, some penniless foreigner. No, thank you. You can tell Mrs. Blumenthal it won't work. She's still as completely cut out of my will as her brother. When you hang up the phone, you can bring me a cup of tea. I'll be in the library.
Oh, the good Lord favor me and put the words in my mouth. Mary, sweetheart, forgive me for being gone this long.
Well, that's all right, Murch, honey. Is Dad there?
Well, my Vernon, to tell you the truth, he's after having a little bit of a lie down, and,
Well, it's all right. I know what he's lying down on. Any reconciliation with me. I thought maybe the time of year and the baby... Did you tell him about the baby?
well, I didn't want to. I wanted it to be your surprise, but...
Okay. Forget it. I get the whole picture. Maybe I knew before I tried again. Now I know it's hopeless. Merry Christmas to you, Murch, love, anyway. And a Happy New Year.
Oh, Mary, my darling. Oh, what's the use? How long can you fight? If he just wasn't so stubborn. If only Mr. Crown could forget himself and accept someone else into his heart.
Come in.
It's your tea, Mr. Crown?
Oh, thanks. Just put it on the table.
Yes, sir.
Well, was there something else?
Yes, Mr. Crown. This next Christmas would be my 25th that I've served your family.
Oh, in heaven's name, spare me the Christmas spirit. It's choking me.
Well, it's choking some of the rest of us, too, Mr. Crown. Everyone has a limit. You're not alone in that. I've just been talking to Mary, and I've lived through a long, difficult time in your family. I'm giving my notice.
Before dinner?
I honestly don't care if you ever eat again or live. I just have time to catch the next bus. I'll send someone else to clear out everything that's left of mine in this house. I want no part of it, or you, ever again.
A little while later, the front doorbell rang. With Mrs. Murchison gone, Jasper was tempted not to answer it. But when it rang again, some secret urgency drew him down the long corridor. On the walk, he winced. His elbow pained him, and the arthritis in his right leg jumped and sent shivers. Every ache and pain he had ever known seemed to assail him, till the magic moment he opened the door and saw, standing on the stoop, her freckles burning bright in her snow-white face, her pigtails stiff in the icy wind, Jennifer. And even though he didn't realize it, magic was upon him.
Yes? Who are you?
Jennifer Swallow.
What are you doing on my doorstep?
If you please, Mr. Crown, I'm freezing to death.
Oh, you came here of your own free will? What do you want?
I have a business proposition to put to you.
Not interested.
How do you know if you haven't heard it yet?
Don't be rude. You're talking to your elders.
Excuse me, I didn't mean to be rude. I'm just anxious.
Anxious about what?
My proposition. What I want to talk to you about.
All right, what is it?
I'm too cold to tell you here. My father says that no gentleman keeps a lady waiting.
You're no lady, you're just a child.
And you're no gentleman. You're a
what?
You're a kind man who's going to offer me shelter.
Very well, before we both freeze to death. Come in.
Thank you. You shouldn't have let me in, you know.
But you what?
Get in. My father says you should never let a salesman get his foot in the door.
Are you a salesman?
Oh, no. It's just an expression, you see. In a manner of speaking, so to speak.
What is it you want, young lady?
My name's Jennifer.
Jennifer? I'm not interested in names. All I want to know is what your business is here.
Shouldn't we go into the parlor?
No.
You're kind of old. I thought you might want to sit down.
Oh, maybe I'd better.
It would be much cozier.
Very well, then. Follow me.
Even though it is quite cold, it's very nice weather for this time of year.
What?
I'm just making conversation. My father says...
I don't believe it.
Believe what?
I don't believe your father ever gets a word in edgewise with you around. All right. It's warm in here in the library. There's a fire. You can sit over there on the other side of the fireplace.
Thank you. So many books.
A lot of knowledge in the world if you young folks would take time to pick up some of it. Now, Miss Jennifer, just what is it you want?
Well, it's at the church, you see. Nobody is working this year on account of you closed the factory down.
You blame me for that?
Oh, no. I mean, that's your business, of course. But it meant somebody had to do something special. About Christmas, I mean.
I might have known it. Sending a child here to blink her innocent eyes at me. Who put you up to this? Who sent you here to ask for money?
No one. I just wanted to...
Don't lie. For a moment, you almost fooled me, young lady. But I might have known there was something behind this. There is, isn't there?
Well...
What is it? Present for the church?
Oh, no. I already won those. From Win the Booty.
You what?
I said I already got those. From Win the Booty. You know.
No, I don't know. What is Win the Booty?
It's on television. Don't you watch it?
I don't have a television set.
Oh, it's fun. The man asks you questions, you see, and then you have to answer them.
And that's what you did?
Of course. Why are you so surprised?
I'm just amazed that you didn't ask him most of the questions. So you won some prizes, eh?
Oh, scrumptious ones. So you see, we don't need you for that.
You don't say. But what do you need me for?
Well, see, the presents are to be handed out tomorrow night at Christmas Eve. And we have no Santa Claus to do it. I wanted you for that.
Of course. Because I'm rich and you thought that I might bring some extra presents.
That wasn't it at all.
Somebody else had an idea you should come here and ask me?
No, sir. This was my own idea.
Really? Just what's the matter with the guy who knows all the answers?
Who?
Your all-wise father.
Oh, he isn't here this year.
What's keeping him so busy?
A first-class son of a gun.
A what?
His superior officer. My father's in the Navy. Both of them are.
Who?
My father and the first-class son of a gun. That isn't exactly what he called him, but I promise not to repeat the other.
I see. Well, if it can't be your... I mean, as Santa Claus.
Oh, too skinny and too serious. He never understands a joke. He's really an old stick.
But what on earth would make you think of me, child? You don't just want me to be Santa Claus. You have an ulterior motive.
What's an ulterior motive?
You want me to do something else, don't you?
Oh, that. Of course.
You admit it.
Oh, sure. We don't have a budget for the Santa Claus suit. So I thought if you'd be him, you could afford to rent it. Where are you going?
I'm opening the door for you to leave, Jezebel.
My name isn't Jezebel.
That's a matter of opinion. Just keep heading for the front door.
Then you won't be Santa Claus?
I'm afraid I'm not the type.
You could be just perfect if you'd let yourself go.
I wish I could believe that.
Oh, couldn't you?
Only one way I could.
Well, how's that?
You get me the Santa Claus suit, and if you still want me, I'll be your Santa Claus.
Honest to Pete?
Honest to Pete.
Well, I'll try. But it's going to take a miracle if I do.
You know, I wouldn't put it past you.
Jasper Crown remained with his hand on the door, one part of him congratulating himself for having resisted that elfin charm. The child was just trying to use him and his wealth, as people always were, egged on by her elders, no doubt. But another part of him, lonely and forgotten and rusty with disuse, cried out for her return, for a miracle. Never underestimate the power of Jennifer. That night, Jennifer broke open her piggy bank and counted her capital, $2.23. The following morning, she bought a return trip ticket on the bus to Dawson City, which cut into her budget to the tune of $1.62. Once she got there, she set her jaw and started to comb the city. It was well after lunch when suddenly the freckles were dancing across her nose and her pigtails vibrating with delight. For there, just as she told herself there had to be, was a sign saying, Santa Claus suits for rent, dirt cheap. The proprietor was a wonderful man with a jolly round face and bristling white eyebrows and a shock of snowy white hair. As Jenny said afterwards, she almost wished he might be persuaded to come and play Santa Claus.
But that's really a silly idea. He lives too far away.
I beg your pardon, miss.
Did I say something?
Well, there are only two of us here, and I didn't say anything, so I think it must have been you.
There I go again, thinking out loud. You couldn't, could you? Or didn't I think that part out loud?
What part?
About wanting you to come and be Santa Claus in Thomasville at our church tomorrow evening.
Oh, I'm afraid I couldn't. Some other people are expecting me. But I can rent you a suit, you know, a Santa Claus suit. Do you see one that you like?
Well, there are so many. What's this one made of?
Red velvet with ermine trim. You like it?
It is nice. How much would it cost to rent it?
Well, now, that's a very handsome suit and quite cheap at the normal rental of $100.
$100?
Too much?
Oh, much too much.
Well, now, how much were you thinking of?
61 cents.
61 cents, eh? Now, isn't that a coincidence? As a matter of fact, right down beneath the counter here, I may have just the thing. Yes, here we are. Now, let's see. Boots, belt, hat, pants, and a tunic. And, of course, the whiskers to go with it. And the price happens to be just right. On the nose, as the saying goes. 61 cents.
It is pretty old and tattered.
Yes, it is. Seen a lot of use. I have to admit it isn't in the best of repair. But it's the genuine thing.
Well, it is pretty ratty. But I'll take it. After all, the price is right. And the kids who are going to see it won't notice the condition. Because to tell you the truth, these days our clothes are pretty ratty, too.
Oh, righty-o. I'll wrap it all up. And while I'm getting it ready, you can sign your name right here.
What's that for?
Well, I'd like to get this suit back. You might be surprised, but sometimes I have a little trouble. This way, if you shouldn't return it, any time I want to claim it, I'll have proof that it's mine.
Oh, now why doesn't Mrs. Murchison answer that bell? Oh, of course I forgot. She's gone. Oh, rotten tarnation. I'll answer it myself, I suppose. I'm coming, damn it, I'm coming. Oh. Well, you don't have to pull it out of its socket.
Please, it's so cold. I'm freezing.
Oh, it's you again, is it? Well, what is it this time?
Look, I got it.
Got what?
The Santa Claus suit. I thought you'd be happy.
Why should I be happy?
Because you said. You promised. You're not going to Welsh out. Aren't you even going to invite me in?
So you tricked me into a promise I should never have given.
I didn't either trick you.
Oh, no? Well, we'll see. Well, what are you standing out there for, child? Want us both to freeze to death in this drafty hall? Go on to the living room. I've had the window fixed.
Yes, sir, Mr. Crown.
Well, in you go. There's a fire here, and it's warmer.
It certainly is that. Thank you.
So you got the suit, huh?
Yes, sir.
How?
That's my business.
Didn't take you long to maneuver it once you found out I wouldn't fork out for it, huh?
That's right, Mr. Crown.
Well, sit down.
Thank you.
That all?
Excuse me?
I mean, can't catch your tongue, huh? You certainly had enough to say yesterday. Why so silent now?
I'm disappointed.
Why?
Because you're not happy, too. About the suit, I mean.
Why should I be?
I don't know, Mr. Crown. But I was just sure you would be.
Well, you're wrong. I'm not. I made a bargain, and I'll stick to it.
You don't have to. If you don't. I won't hold you to it. I mean, an unhappy Santa Claus wouldn't be much good. Do you want to?
Want to what? Be unhappy?
No, to get out of it.
I don't even know if I can get into it yet. Close your mouth. You look silly with it open. Oh, come on. The suit, the suit. Come on, let's see it.
I can't open it. It is a very difficult knot.
Oh, give me that stupid parcel. Stop fiddling. Can't spend all night on this. Oh, good Lord. In what ragtag did you find this flea-bitten outfit, huh? Huh?
I didn't either find it. I rented it.
Rented it? And just what did you pay for this threadbare collection of junk?
It cost 61 cents.
How much?
More, when you count my bus fare from here to Dawson City. $1.62 plus 61 cents. $2.23. My whole capital.
And just where did you get $2.23?
It was my tree money for Christmas, but I'd rather have a Santa Claus than a tree. So I broke my piggy bank, and I hate you.
Oh, stop it. Oh, stop. All right, I'll be your Santa Claus. Oh, I'll even try the suit on now if you like. Well, if you still want me, that is. I'll be a pretty gruff Santa Claus, but... Oh, shall I try the damn thing on?
Yes, please. After all, I spent the money. And something is better than nothing, isn't it?
Honesty, Jasper. The startling white honesty of a child. It's what you've been looking for, grasping for. Something to believe in again. And yet, too late. Too late. You're so conscious of the age in your body, the bile in your gut, your loneliness, that rheumatic elbow, that gnawing peptic ulcer, the tight place around your heart. Or is what you fear most your mean and tiny soul?
And while Jasper thought these private thoughts, he was slowly putting on the Santa Claus suit, shaking his head at each tattered garment and worn accessory that went with it. But as he put each piece on, watching through Jenny's eyes, each separate piece seemed to shine suddenly as luxuriously rich and sumptuous as the velvet and ermine suit she had first seen. And the whiskers were pure white and thick and curly, and the boots were like the most expensive Moroccan leather. But the biggest miracle of all was in Jasper. Gone was the constriction from the heart. The nagging ache was no longer dragging at his stomach. The rheumatic arm was loose as a whip, and a magic sponge had wiped the lines from his face and the meanness from his heart.
Oh, super! Gloriosa! It fits! It fits!
Like a glove.
You look so different.
I feel so different. Do I look like Santa Claus?
Not look. You are. You are Santa. It's just perfect. Only...
Only what?
Do you think you could, just a little, even smile?
Not only could I smile, I even think I could laugh again.
Oh, try, Mr. Crown, try.
You could call me Jasper, Jennifer.
And you can call me Jenny, Jasper.
Hello, Jenny Jasper.
Oh, Jasper, this is going to be a good Christmas.
Oh, Jenny, this is going to be the best Christmas ever.
Now, Mrs. Templeton, now do you think?
Yes. I was just coming to tell you, my dear child, that my husband said we are just about to commence.
Mr. Crown all dressed and ready.
The Reverend isn't teed off, is he?
Teed off?
I mean, his feathers aren't ruffled.
The Reverend is a saint, my dear. A perfect saint. Why on earth should he be angry?
Well, Grandmother said he always played Santa Claus. And if someone else wanted to be it, he'd be mad as a wet hen. And I said, why is a wet hen mad? And she said, because its feathers get ruffled.
Your grandmother, I should say your family in general, Jenny, doesn't quite understand a man of God. The minister, my beloved George, is only too happy to welcome back a sinner and a backslider like Mr. Crown. He would sacrifice any of his little pleasures for that. Which reminds me.
Yes, ma'am?
For some reason or other, Mr. Crown says he has to see you before he comes in.
Oh, dear, I hope nothing's gone wrong. Because if Jasper's feathers are ruffled, this whole party could lay an egg.
I thought we'd never get rid of that old stork.
I told you he was an old stick.
In the mud. Now, what I needed you for was to know if I look all right.
Come over to the chair. He has the wig all wrong, and the hat not down over your nose, not sort of jaunty to one side. And he didn't put the rouge on your cheeks, like this. Oh, and now you really look like something. Oh, Jasper, you look just beautiful.
And so do you, Jenny.
Oh, I don't matter. You're the star of this show. Now you go out there and twinkle.
Watch my stardust. Just call me Jasper, Jenny, and everything's all right.
You just call me Jenny Jasper, and I know it's going to be. Here he comes, everybody, all the way from North Pole.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry Christmas.
There it is. We have all been witness to the regeneration of Jasper Crown. A child's drive and belief has brought him back to the precious gift of present youth and laughter. But is it a true conversion or only a momentary aberration? Is the magic of this moment in the Christmas legend, in the suit, and in Jenny? What happens if he loses either, or both? The church party was an exceptionally long one that year, and before it was over, Jasper Crown had indeed become Santa's alter ego. Many other gifts beyond those Jenny collected on Win the Booty were distributed. All of them from Jasper's generous purse. $50,000 to the church itself. Another $50,000 to the community chest. And many smaller but not less welcome gifts. Then, with the party over, Jasper, after a long last hug with Jenny before she went home, returned to his own house. But however cold the empty old mansion might seem, Jasper, in his suit of red, was warm and glowing inside. And his first trip was to the telephone.
Christmas greetings, hello?
Happy Christmas, my darling daughter.
Dad? Daddy?
Yes, Mary. You're a miserable, old, wretched, stupid fag.
I can't believe it. I mean, you don't... Oh, you never were stupid. And you certainly don't sound miserable, old, or wretched.
Well, none of those, but I was stupid. How can I make up for it to you and Leon?
Make up? Oh, Daddy, I wish you could be with us for Christmas.
It's a little late for that, but I have another idea. I want to buy plane tickets for you and Leon to come visit me and ring in the new year with me.
Oh, Daddy.
A real good new year. I just called Robert, and he and his wife are coming home with the children. He's going to start up the mill again for me. It could be a real family reunion.
Daddy, I don't know what to say.
Oh, say yes. Please, just say yes.
Of course it's yes. Yes, yes, yes. Daddy, what happened? You said, well, not only like yourself again, but I don't know. Like the spirit of Christmas, past and present.
And future. You'll see, I hope, when you come home. Mrs. Murchison, come in.
God and his angels be with me. I thought, Mr. Crown, for a moment you were the real article.
I can't claim that. I wish I could.
Oh.
But I feel as cheerful as him. What brings you here Christmas morning?
Well, now, sir, I felt real bad, particularly this time of year and all walking out on you. And here's Christmas Day, and you even without a dinner. So I was after bringing a little basket here, if you'd accept it.
I accept it from the heart, and with my thanks. But I'd like to ask you something in return.
What was that?
Will you come back to work for me, Murch? I need you.
Oh, you called me Murch. Mary's name.
She's coming home with her husband and her child-to-be for New Year's. And Robert and his family.
Oh.
They're moving back to open up the mill. I'll need you, Murch.
Ah, the Blessed Mary preserve it, so you will. And glad I'll be to come home.
Good.
But what is it that's come over you, Mr. Crown?
A child brought me this suit, Murch. And putting it on, I went back to the man I was. I don't want to question either because I believe them both to be a miracle. And I thank God to have found happiness and peace again. And pray to him it will not be taken away from me.
But every silver lining has a cloud, every sky a rift. The worm nestles even in the heart of a rose. Jasper could not buy his happiness this fast, if ever again. As she has been his angel, Jenny now becomes his nemesis.
Good morning, Jenny.
Good morning, Jasper. I didn't expect...
Me to answer the door? Well, I saw you coming up the walk.
I didn't mean that. I meant I didn't expect to see... I hate to say it, but I've come for the Santa Claus suit.
No. What do you want it for?
You'll have to take it off now, Jasper.
Why?
Because I signed the paper. I only rented it, and I'm responsible. I have to take it back. Funny to see you out of the Santa Claus suit again, Jasper.
Oh, Jenny, I feel naked. It's the way I told you.
But that's silly. You aren't the way you were at all. You're nice now. The way I always knew you were underneath.
As long as I have the suit.
As long as you have you. That's what counts. My father says, oh, wait a minute. Tell the chauffeur. Here's the street. Oh, I was sure it was this one. Try the next. You watch one side, and I'll watch the other.
You're not watching, Jenny.
That's because I've already looked all the way down. It must be the next block. Why are you looking so sad again, Jasper?
Because I feel that way. Not even sad. Frightened, Jenny.
Why?
I like the way I am. I didn't like the way I was. And I'm afraid that if I let go of the suit, I'll go back to being what I was.
Never. Anyway, when we get to the shop, you can always buy it. Oh, tell the chauffeur to turn here, to the right.
Take the next right, Edward. You sure this is it?
Yes, I know. Because there's the hat factory, and the cigar store, and the man who cooks spaghetti in the window of his shop. And right there next to it...
What? What, Jenny?
Sir Edward, stop and back up. See, Jasper? It's a dead-end street anyway. And there's that big school, and the storage company, and then the Chinese laundry. And right here between it and the man who cooks spaghetti in the window was...
Stop the car, Edwards. But, Jenny, there's nothing here but an empty lot.
But there can't be, because otherwise, then it would have to be a miracle.
Yes, that's what it would have to be.
But that's impossible.
Why?
Because miracles have to be about holy things, and they have to be very old.
Well, what's holier than Christmas? And it's pretty old.
I must have made a mistake. We'll just have to keep...
Little Jenny, listen to me. This is a funny thing to ask, but I ask it with all my heart. Don't let's go looking anymore, because we just might find him, and that's the thing I'm most afraid of.
Why?
Because then I'd have to give the suit back, and I might stop believing again.
Oh, is that the time? The right time?
Yes, what's wrong?
I've got to get back to Grandma's fast. I'm catching a plane today.
Edwards, home, step on it. A plane? Where to?
Pacific. Japan. Back to my father. He's so lonely. I'm all he has. But Grandmother was getting old, and we were both going to spend Christmas with her. Only that first-class son of a... I almost said it. Anyway, the Admiral said he couldn't spare my father because of the general situation. Oh, what am I going to do?
About your father?
No, about the suit.
Jenny, why don't you let me handle this? I'm here, and your father and you are going to be on the other side of the world.
How could you handle it?
Well, let me tell you, and we'll write it down as soon as we get home. The advertisement, Jenny. I'll read it. If the owner of the Santa Claus suit rented to Jennifer Swallow will present his copy of the receipt to me, Jasper Crown, my address, phone number, and so on, he will be remunerated to whatever degree he deems fair and equitable, up to, but not to exceed, the sum of $1 million. This ad will appear daily till the first of the new year, and for the month of December of each succeeding year, until the decease of the aforementioned Jasper Crown. Okay?
But Jasper, $1 million for that cruddy old suit?
I told you, it's worth that to me. Do you have to go, Jenny?
You shouldn't have to ask. You know how fathers feel about daughters.
Now I do.
Your own daughter is coming back to be with you. And your son, too. You'll never miss me.
Oh, I will that. Don't ever mistake it. But I'm finally realizing all this fuss about a suit I thought was a key that unlocked my heart. And it wasn't the suit at all. It was you.
I hate goodbyes. They're always sad. Why can't they be laughing goodbyes? Couldn't you laugh? Just a little?
You said that to me once before, remember?
And you laughed.
I don't think anything could make me laugh now.
I bet I could. Try it, Mr. Crown.
Try what?
That's not what you're supposed to say.
What am I supposed to say?
You're supposed to say, you can call me.
Jasper, Jenny.
And you can call me Jenny, Jasper.
Hello, Jenny Jasper.
Hello, Jasper, Jenny. Oh, Jasper, it's been such a good Christmas.
The best ever.
Jenny left, as she had to, and Jasper placed the ad in the paper. For 10 years, it appeared every December as Jasper lived out a full and happy life. His family, grandchildren, and his mill workers filling every Christmas for him. Until early this December, when he died, peacefully and quietly in his sleep, grateful and joyful to go join his beloved wife.
Hello, Mr. Crown. I've been proud of you these last 10 years.
I've felt at peace with myself. The suit is in that rosewood box on my bureau. And here's a blank check signed. Fill in what you want.
Oh, no. This is paid in full. I've more than had my rental. But I will take the suit back because it is Christmas again. And who knows? It may be very useful to someone else, eh? Now, excuse me, it's a busy season for me. Now, Dancers, now, Dancers, now, Prancer and Vixen.
Did you feel him, Jasper?
I did. It's been most of it. Such a good life. And the best of it, you made. But I'm tired, Jenny. So tired. Say goodnight to me.
Good night, Jasper. I wish I could wish you Merry Christmas.
No, that's my little gift to you. Have as many and more as you brought me.
I love you, Jasper.
That's what Christmas is all about.
Good night, my extra special Santa.
An event or effect contrary to the established order of things. A wonder or a wonderful thing. Webster's definition of a miracle. For this special night of the year, there remains nothing to say in closing but God rest you, merry gentlemen and ladies, and a merry, merry Christmas to all.
If you're on the hunt for a good present, explore our Gumroad shop, home to several audiobooks, including The Wizard of Oz. These premium audiobooks in CraftLit fashion will come with all the annotations, commentary, and detailed insights you might have missed. Just head over to craftlit.gumroad.com. That's CraftLit.gumroad, Gum as in Mary, ROAD as in dog.com. Or use the link in the show notes. Thank you for your support. Take care. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Christmas Scene at Camelot from Sir Gawain and the Green Knight by the anonymous Pearl Poet. Read in Middle English. This king lie at Camelot upon Christmas, with mony lovlich lord, ladies of the best, reckonly of the runde table, alle the rich brether, with rich revel richt, and rechless mirthes. There tournayed dulcus betimus full mony, justed full jollily these gentil knichtes, seasten caired to the court Carol's stomach. For there the fest was full 15 days, with all the met and the mirth that men cussa vise. Such glaum and gley glorious to hear. Der din upon day, dancing on nichtes. All was hap upon high in halles and chambres, with lordes and ladies, as levest him thought. With all the weal of the world, they woned there samen. the most kid knichtes under Christus selven, and the lovelockest ladies that ever live hadden, and he the cumlockest king that the court haldes. For all was this fire folk in her first age on sill, the hapnest under heaven, king highest man of will. It were no great need to neven so hardy a hair on hill. Will New Year was so yep that it was nu a common, that day double on the days was the doth served, fra the king was common with knichts into the hall, the chantry of the chapel chaved to an end. Lude crie was der kest of clerkes and other, no well, nighted or newe, nevened full ofte, and siden reach forth runnen to retch hondesell, jeet jeres giftes on he, jeldem behond, debated busily about the giftes, ladies lached for lud, doch they lost hadden, and he that one was not wroth, that may well trowe. Alle these mirsta they maden to the mad team. When they had washen, worthily they went unto set. The best born I above, as it best seemed. When Gwenor full gay greithed in the middes, dressed on the dear days, dubbed alle boot. Smal sendal besides, a seljure her år, of triet to los, of tars tapitus in och, that were embroidered and beten with the best gemmes that micht bepraved of price, with pennies to be in dye. The cumlockest to discree, der glent with Ian grey, a samelocker that he see, soth mocht no man say. But Arthur would not eat till all were served. He was so jolly of his joyfulness, and somewhat chilled gered. His lief liket him licht, he loved the lass, either to lenge lie, or to longe sit. So busied him his young blood, and his brain wild. And also another manner meved him eke, that he thurch nobelei had nomen, who would never eat upon such a dare day, ere him devised were of some aventurous thing, and uncouth tale, of some mine merveil, that he micht trowe, of aldres, of armes, of other aventures, oder some sedge him besucht of some sicker knicht, to joine with him in justing, in jeopardy to lie, led lief for lief, leave uch on other, as fortune would fulsen him the fairer to have. This was the kinges countenance where he in court were, at each far and fest among his free men in hall. Therefore of was so fair, he stichtles stiff in stall, full yep in that New Year, much mirth he mass withal. Thus there stondes in stall the stiff king hisselven, talkend before the high table of trifles full hand. There gode Gawain was greithed, Gwenor beside, and Agravain a la dure mine on that other side sittes, both the kinges sister sonnes, and full sicker knichtes. Bishop Baudouin above beginnes the table, and Iwan, Uriens son, ette with himselven. These were dicht on the days, and there worthily served, and sithen money sicker sedge at the sideboardes. Then the first course come, with cracking of trumpes, with money banner full bricht, that there be hanged. Nu a nacre noise with the noble pipes, wilde werbles, and wicht wakned lot, that money hert full hie hef at her touches. Dainte striven therewith of full dere metes, foison of the fresh, and on so fele dishes, that pinne to finde the place the people beforne for to set the silvener, that sere sewes halden on closse. Each led as he loved himself, there lacht withouten loth. I twa had dishes 12, God bear and bricht ween both. End of Christmas Scene at Camelot from Sir Gawain and the Green Knight by the anonymous Pearl Poet. Read by Martin Geeson.
This king lay at Camelot, nigh on Christmas, with many lovely lords of leaders the best, reckoning of the Round Table, all the rich brethren, with right ripe revel and reckless mirth. Their tourneyed tykes by times full many, jousted full jollily these gentle knights. Then carried to court their carols to make, for there the feast was alike full 15 days, with all the meat and mirth men could devise, such clamour and glee glorious to hear. Dear din in the daylight, dancing of nights, all was happiness high in halls and chambers, with lords and ladies as liked them all best. With all that's well in the world were they together, the knights best known under the Christ himself, and the loveliest ladies that ever life honoured, and he the comeliest king that the court rules. For all were fair folk and in their first age still, the happiest under heaven, king noblest in his will, that it were hard to reckon so hardy a host on hill. While New Year was so young it was new come in, that day double on the dais was the dole served. For the king was come with knights into the hall, and chanting in the chapel had chimed to an end. Loud cry was their cast of clerics and others, Noel nurtured anew and named full oft. And see the rich run forth to render presents, yelled their gifts on high, yield them to hand. Argued busily about those same gifts. Ladies laughed out loud, though they had lost, while he that won was not wrath, that you'll know. All this mirth they made at the mealtime. When they had washed well they went to be seated, the best of the barons above, as it seemed best, with Guinevere full gaily gracing their midst. Dressed on the dais there, adorned all about, splendid silk by her sides, and sheer above, of true Toulouse, of Tartar tapestries plenty, that were embroidered bright with the best gems that might be priced proved with pennies any a day. The comeliest to descry glanced there with iron grey, a seemlier ever to the sight, sooth might no man say. But Arthur would not eat till all were served, he was so joyous a youth and somewhat boyish. He liked his life lively, he loved the less, either to long lie idle or to long sit. So busied him his young blood and his brain wild, and also another matter moved him so, that he had nobly named he would never eat, on such dear days before he had been advised, of some adventurous thing, an unknown tale, of some mighty marvel that he might believe, of ancestors, arms, or other adventures, or else till someone beseeched for some sure knight, to join with him in jousting, in jeopardy to lay down life for life, allow each to the other, as fortune might favour them of fair advantage. This was the king's custom when he in court was, at each fine feast among his many friends in hall. Therefore with fearless face he stands straight and tall, full lively at that new year, much mirth he makes withal. Thus there stands straight and tall the king himself, talking at the high table of trifles full courtly. Their good Gawain was graced by Guinevere beside, and Agravain à la Dure main on the other side sits, both the king's sister sons and full sure knights. Bishop Baldwin above, he begins the table, and Gawain Urien's son, ate alongside him. These sat high on the dais and deftly served, and many another sat sure at the side tables. Then the first course came with crack of trumpets, with many a banner full bright that thereby hung, new noise of kettledrums and noble pipes, wild warbles and wide-wakened echoes, that many a heart full high heaved at their notes, dainties drawn in therewith of full dear meats. Foods of the freshest, and in such files of dishes, they find no room to place them people before, and to set the silver that holds such servings on cloth. Each his load as he liked himself, there ladled and nothing loath. Every two had dishes 12, good beer and bright wine both.
Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget, if you want to listen to more of our audiobooks without breaking the bank, just visit us at craftlit.com to see all of the books we've covered for free. This includes Emma by Jane Austen, Herland by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, Dracula by Bram Stoker, The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas, and other beloved classics. Many, many other beloved classics. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you there. If you enjoy what we do here on CraftLit, please don't forget to like and subscribe on iTunes. Give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button on YouTube. You can also support the show by subscribing to the CraftLit App Premium feed. You can check the link below for details. Your support helps keep CraftLit going strong, and we've got plenty of ways for you to get involved now. If you want more perks, you can head over to Patreon at patreon.com/craftlit and become a patron of this art. You can also join our YouTube channel memberships for access to tons of premium books as bonuses, or you can support us at ko-fi.com/craftlit. And guess what? We've just relaunched our premium memberships over on craftlit.com. Go to craftlit.com/premium and check out all of the details there. Link is below as well. For a one-stop shop to all things CraftLit, please visit Linktree at linktr.ee/CraftLit channel. This is your go-to hub for all of our social media and more. They're all listed there for you. And I keep forgetting to mention, come join our Facebook group. It is full of the kindest, most creative makers and readers, and even some people who never really used to read. We've got them now. All right, that's it for now. Thank you. Take care of yourself. Have a great one. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.